38th parallel, and the United States took the surrender south of it. What seemed like a minor administrative decision by Allied armies soon became the basis for the division of Korea by the two superpowers, exacerbated by their inability to agree on the terms of Korean independence. The now quarreling superpowers installed puppet regimes sympathetic to them on both sides of the 38th parallel, and things got ever more heated up. Soon the whole mess turned into a proxy war between the Soviet Union, the United States, and the now communist China. And, as is usual in these cases, the civilian population took the brunt of the horror, with an estimated 2.5 million people dead. Additionally, about 80% of all infrastructure was destroyed, putting Korea in the same GDP category as the poorer African nations. The main combat operations of the Korean War lasted for 3 years, and shortly after an armistice treaty was signed in 1953, the North, now a completely separate state fully backed by China and the Soviet Union, began its ultimate isolationist policy, bringing back the moniker Hermit Kingdom. Within the walls of the kingdom emerged a royal family of sorts, headed by the so-called great leader Kim Il-sung. Wielding absolute power derived from his version of the Communist Manifesto in one hand and a 9mm pistol in the other, the eternal president, in a fashion more Stalinist than Stalin's, ruthlessly destroyed any and all opposition within the country. North Korea, sealed from the outside world, became one grand uber-Stalinist theme park where Kim Il-sung and now his son Kim Jong-il became total, all-powerful and all-knowing gods. Even though it has been almost 60 years since the Korean War, the whole country is overrun by a siege mentality with a constant flood of stories about evil American imperialist pigs and Japanese devils trying to plot against the motherland. Fortunately, to counteract these Lord of the Rings-like evils, the wizard Kim Il-sung created his version of self-reliant communism called Juche, which made North Korea into a perfect country. At least in that book. The Juche idea identifies the Korean masses as the masters of the country's development. From the 1950s to the 1970s, Kim Il-sung elaborated the Juche idea into a set of principles that the government claims to use to justify its policy decisions. Among these are independence from great powers, a strong military posture, and reliance on Korean national resources. Symbolized by a flame, sometimes translated as spirit of self-reliance and interpreted as always putting Korean things first, it failed horribly to make a real impact on North Korea. While indeed Korea has a sizable military, it has been and is extremely dependent on the great powers it seems to fear so much. Also, there is no significant reliance on national resources, as the decades of well-organized mismanagement have left North Korea in shambles and at the mercy of China. According to Kim Il-sung, the Juche idea is based on the belief that man is the master of everything and decides everything. It is absolutely correct, except that in this case, man meant Mr. Kim himself. It is this nutty theme park that we have decided to visit. The following video collection is a collage of my own footage, as well as montage of photos and videos from other sources, which I use to have a better shot at displaying the insanity of this country. Of all the places I have been to, North Korea has to be the by far most mockable, ridiculous, and least legitimate, a pus-filled zit and a slap in the face of human decency. The zit is trying its best to cover itself up with makeup and hats, but underneath the emperor's new clothes lie ugly truths about this place and humanity's never-ending ability to slide into suicidal madness. Immediately after walking onto the tarmac, we were greeted by the great leader Kim Il-sung himself. At the terminal building, we were met by our guides who assisted with the paperwork and customs inspection, which consisted of the question, "Do you have a mobile phone?" repeated approximately 25 times. Whoever had one had to immediately surrender it to be picked up on the way out of the country. We loaded onto our Juche incorrect Japanese tour bus and rode towards the city. The rainy weather didn't fill anyone with chipper enthusiasm, but I think the city itself does a good job of making you feel depressed. Although full of grand monuments, statues, towers and other crap, the streets were drab and very empty. In fact, Pyongyang feels like a shabby communist theme park, a sort of Leninland, but Leninland at closing time with only a few people drifting through the streets and the lights going out. But the guide went on his chipper monologue about how the city was best at this, best at that, and how everything was better, bigger, taller, longer, and more awesome, all thanks to the great leader.
Anniversary of birth of president. So it is 60 meters high, so 11 meters higher than that in Paris.
Yes, it was very important to highlight that it was 11 meters higher than the one in Paris. Higher. Yes, higher. It was higher. It was 11 meters higher. Did you catch that? 11 meters higher. Higher than the one in Paris. It's very important. We were taken to the 170-meter, 47-story Yanggakdo Hotel, which is a massive facility.
Hi, my name is Amy Nam from Los Angeles, UC Riverside, class of 2006. This is the KUP Special News. Minister Kim of Foreign Affairs and Trade of South Korea urged North Korea to give up on nuclear weapons, instead give up on his daydream. Gaddafi's end can only make North Korea give up their nuclear weapons program. On December 11, 2011, Foreign Minister Kim urged North Korea's Kim Jong-il to stop the uranium enrichment activities and to push forward non-nuclearization of the Korean peninsula. The Korean Unity Press USA judged for itself on December 12, 2011, that even though the guarantee for providing for the Carrot 2, North Korea is ensured if and when North Korea scraps their nuclear program. Kim Jong-il, who came to know the tragic end of Gaddafi, showed a red light of hesitation for his reluctant determination for changeability of non-nuclearization, which eventually made the possibility of solution much less. If the United States of America and China fail to dissuade North Korea's Kim Jong-il, more than $50 billion must be compensated. In the future, the United States would engage itself in a military campaign against North Korea. If that happens, Kim Jong-il would try to occupy Seoul through the completed tunnel. The failure to scrap the North Korea's nuclear weapons program started from then. South Korean President Kim Yong-sam's ignorance. Park Geun-hye's camp must get ready for a revamp project for the National Intelligence Service to such level as dismantlement of the service organization. The service organization, the stage for South Korea, North Korea summit talk, and the like broken in pieces due to the North Korea's demand for more than $5 billion. Because South Korean Lee Myung-bak's regime has failed to completely get rid of the leftist and pro-North Korean people in the National Intelligence Service, the forces planted by such former South Korean presidents as Kim Dae-jung and Ro Bu-hyun, leaving aside the recent failures in driving the policy toward North Korea, which should have been based on a firm principle, it makes even more impossible for the South Korea to carry out its national policies and to protect the national entity of South Korea, which makes the counter strategy for this situation urgent time and again. Especially the secret maneuvers of the leftists in National Intelligence Service is threatening to the national entity of South Korea. So unless these forces are eradicated, even though many of these forces have been gotten rid of by Lee Myung-bak government, even the life of President Lee Myung-bak, who has performed the policy toward North Korea based on a principle rather than the hard line, cannot be guaranteed because there are so many elements in the nucleus of the forces still remain and stage the secret maneuvers. In this context, extraordinary countermeasures should be taken by Park Geun-hye government or any other whatsoever to eradicate these kinds of threatening forces, which continue to try to harm the nation of South Korea by such a manner as even intervening deploy in the South Korean national policy toward North Korea. The Park Geun-hye camp must from now on get ready to get rid of the leftists in the National Intelligence Service. They should not undervalue this organization. A series of recent failures in driving the policies like South-North Korean summit talk and military talks was exactly pointed out previously by the Korea Unity Press USA from the point of view that North Korea has demanded an exorbitant amount of money from South Korea for compensation for the damage and loss derived from South Korea's non-feasance of the 6.15 and 10.4 joint declarations of South and North Korea. On December 13th, 1999, then South Korean President Tae Woo-ro met the prime ministers of North Korea who visited South Korea. The fundamentalist agreement between South and North Korea drawn up and signed at the order of the higher-ups saying we will change North Korea and induce them to open their society to the outside world without paying attention to the advice of the Korean Unity Press. But as a matter of fact, in 1972, the second joint communique of South and North Korea was declared. However, on December 13th, 2011, Mr. Won Sik-chung, then Prime Minister of South Korea, who signed the related agreements on behalf of South Korea, expressed his afterthought 20 years after the joint communique at his interview with Yonhap News. The agreement was made for the purpose of reconciliation, non-aggression, and mutual exchange and cooperation between South and North Korea, but it turned out to be a useless thing. He admitted that it was a failure. His speeches seemed brilliant. The representative of the Korea Unity Press USA now feels nearly in tears. Immediately after the fundamental agreement was adopted at that time, the National Security Planning Board of South Korea in Seoul made it an emergency call to the Korea Unity Press USA and asked the Korean Unity Press to analyze the intentions of North Korea. For this request, the reporter of KUP, after a 2-day study, contacted them via fax. The intention of North Korea is a kind of tactic of Mao Zedong to disentangle the tangled threads, the bogged down situation between South and North Korea in today's terms, and it will likely be stopped in 3 months. Thank you for listening. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
그래도 어려웠습니다. 연말에 몇몇 군데 행사를 다녀봅니다만 특히 교회에서 불우한 좀 나아지겠지만은 여전히 어려운 현실에 부닥칠 가능성이 많습니다. 그런 현장에서 정말 개인적으로 또 미영사관에서 독보사회 지도층에 계시는 우리 위에 높아지기를 원하나이다. 아멘.
남가주 기독교교회 협의회는 음악 분과를 전해주십시오.
Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, unto us a son is given. 우리를 위해 하셨다 하나님.
산 위에 있는 동네가 숨기지 못할 것이요 사람이 등불을 켜서 말 아래 두지 아니하고 등경 위에 등하리.
나라를 섬기기 위해서 첫째가 신령이 가난한 자요, 둘째가 애통에 하는 자요, 세자요, 다섯째가 자비로운 자요, 여섯째가 마음이 청결성 8가지. 그리고 우리 이 수한 한계의 그림대로 나아가는 세상의 소금이라 둘째는 너희는 세상의 빛이라. 소금은
Good evening. I've been hearing a lot about this movement called Occupy America. Have you heard of it? What is this Occupy America? This is made up of people, this common people. It could be professionals such as professors, even attorneys, doctors, as well as recent college graduates, unemployed blue-collar workers, and your common homeless people as well. There's a movement called Occupy America, and they're starting to say that, hey, we are the 99% of America, and we want to be heard by the 1% who are the super rich in this country. What they're doing is they're organizing these demonstrations, albeit very peaceful demonstrations, all over America, from New York, Chicago to LA, and even smaller parts of the country as small towns that you've never even heard of. And these movements are getting very active. It started this summer, which hasn't been that long ago, and it became very active in the fall. In the beginning, the media didn't even pay much attention to this movement because we really didn't know where to go with this. What do they want? What are they complaining about? So they go out, have these demonstrations, go to the city halls, the city parks, and so forth. What are they after? But now the movement seems to be gaining more strength, and it's becoming more organized. They have a voice. They're talking about what needs to be done for the people to be employed. They're having regular meetings and organizations and town hall meetings and so forth. And it seems like they're getting perhaps ready for the political party to be ready for the big election next year, for the presidential election. Just as we had the Tea Party movement and have become a political party, we're wondering whether this Occupy America movement would also become a political party in the next year for the presidential election. That would be very, very interesting to see. Another interesting thing about this movement is that it has the people who are involved in this movement are just people from all walks of life. Like I said before, there are professors there are recent college grads who can't get a job. They have tons of student loans, and they can't seem to find a job that pays decent enough so that they could pay off their loans. All these people are getting together, and what they really have in common. They're saying that they need to do something about the division of the class in America, that the rich is getting richer and the poor is getting poorer. So we are very much interested in knowing what they're doing and what their next move is going to be. 안녕하세요. 여러분 요즘에 Occupy America라는 그런 단체, 그런 무브먼트라는 거 많이 들어보셨어요? 요즘에 많이들 들리는 이제 일들이 있는데 처음에 시작했을 적에는 그렇게 아무런 반응이 별로 없었어요. 그러니까는 매스컴에도 별로 타지 않았고 TV 방송이나 라디오 방송에도 별로 따라다니지 않았었는데 최근에 와서는 과연 이 사람들이 자기네들이 이제 소위 말해서 우리가 99%다. 우리가 99%고 그다음에 이제 그 1%를 미국을 가지고 있는데 그 1%를 상대로 이제 싸운다 그러나 데모를 하고 있고 여러 가지 이제 무브먼트를 만들고 있습니다. 근데 이게 처음에는 그냥 한두 도시에서 시작했다고 생각할 수 있는데 지금 불과 몇 달 만에 1000개가 넘는 도시에서 이런 무브먼트를 움직이고 있어요. 그러니까